your meeting, sir. You're the effective chair of the governance committee.
Okay. Report from the council departments and representatives' decisions with the council. I think this is the first one I've ever read. Amendments of the budget are forwarded from the departments to approve the committee and recommendation councils.
We need a roll call first, please. That's me.
Roll call. Okay.
Councillor Brody,
Here.
Mayor Reed,
Listen.
Councillor Kelly,
Here.
Councillor Moore,
Here.
Councillor Gibbs,
Here.
Okay. Agenda of items brought forward from the departments but approved by the committee for recommendation to the council. Request that the mayor authorize and sign an agreement with MLFLW LLC and the Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau to host the 2021 Toyota Series Northern Number 1 fishing tournament on July 15th through the 17th, 2021. Request that the mayor is authorized to sign an agreement with the MLFLW LLC, the Adirondack Coast Visitor Bureau, to host the 2021 BFL Northeast Number 3 fishing tournament on July 24th, 2021. The mayor has hands down the appointment of Elaine Ostry to the library board beginning on December 4th, 2020 and expiring on June 30th, 2025. Affirming and adopting an amendment of negative declaration for the annexation project and authorizing filing in accordance with requirements of the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Whereas the city of Plattsburgh is to seek annexation of approximately 224 acres parcel, the subject panel, which is located in the town of Plattsburgh but is owned and situated adjacent to the city, the action, and whereas the Plattsburgh Common Council determined that the action is a type 1 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQRA, the identified and potential involvement of agencies under the SEQRA, which are include the town, and whereas the city was duly designated as a SEQRA legal agency by the determination of the Commission of the Department of Environmental Conservation pursuant to section 617.6 of the.
We may want to defer the entire reading because it's very long.
Okay.
I think everybody's had a chance to read it. And I believe you sent it in advance to all the councilors.
Yes. All right. So we move
who's waiving a reading of the entirety of that resolution, so you're about to move on to resolution 5?
Yes.
And if you like, I'd recommend waiving the reading of that too, because again, we circulated to all the councilors. It's a
Okay.
resolution finding annexation being the overall public interest.
So we start with number 5 then, or are we waiving number 5 as well?
I think we're just now open to discussion of these items and waiting for a motion to move them all to tonight's agenda.
Okay. Do we have a motion to move it?
I'll move.
Is that right? Okay.
Sure.
And then I get to second it?
Yep.
All right.
Take a roll call.
Well, do you want to have a discussion? Open for discussion. I should note that the fishing tournaments, we have no idea what will happen with COVID by the time these fishing tournaments occur. They understand that. They just would simply like to reserve these dates and these facilities just in case they proceed. I think that's written into the contract as well. These are fishing tournaments that the Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau works on very hard. Our addition to it is I believe you all offer some facilities for removing garbage, et cetera, during the events, help set some stuff up. But the city's involvement is relatively minimal. They're pretty much self-contained. They're conducted down at the City Marine and the Plattsburgh Boat Basin properties. And the appointment to the library has been vacant for, I think, a couple of months now. This individual wrote a very nice letter of interest and was nominated by the library director as well. So I think she'd be a wonderful choice. I'd be happy to answer any questions on those and maybe defer to Dean to answer any questions you might have on these two ongoing legal items that we've been working on over probably a number of years now for some of them.
Are we going to do another seeker review tonight?
It's not in the sense where we're walking through those forms, but rather this is a revised addendum to our prior seeker review. And it just supplements and fills out some of the prior seeker analysis following the public hearing. Because tonight will be the final action from this council with respect to seeker, with respect to the actual action itself, which is the determination and order on the annexation itself. So because tonight's the final action, we have this opportunity to, I'll say, supplement the seeker record prior to taking that final action. So there's nothing substantially different in this, in the seeker resolution, but primarily just filling out any objections or claims that frankly the town raised at the public hearing. It's an opportunity, so we should take advantage of it to fill out the record.
Okay.
As far as the action by the council, there is the item on the agenda, and that's all that's required. Again, we don't have to go through those long forms, question by question analysis.
Yes.
I have one question. I received a phone call today in regards to the annexation. And the constituent was worried that, she stated to me that, are we spending more money on something that we may not be able to acquire? Or is this these forms require any expense on our part?
These forms don't require an expense. There has been some expense in order to get us to this point. The city already owns the properties itself, so there's no question whether it will acquire the property, but there is an open question depending on what the town's position is with respect to the same decision. In the event the town concurs, then the annexation moves forward. If the town does not agree and objects to the annexation, then there is a built-in process in state statute where we can file a special proceeding to the appellate division, and it's basically an expedited appeal for the courts to determine for once and for all, is this in the overall public interest? And that's up to the courts ultimately.
It's pretty much your next step.
Yes.
And you mentioned, you used the word acquire. We already own the properties. There are properties that's not
Yeah, well,
at all in debate.
annex, I should say, from the town. She was just worried that we were spending money more towards the property, and what if you don't win it? Why aren't we getting the annexation first, then
So
spending the
this
money?
order, yeah, these resolutions tonight don't trigger, and there's no expense associated with these individual resolutions.
Okay.
Big picture, yes, there's expense we've already made, and then there's future expense depending on the process.
If I could answer that person, I would say to her that we actually spend more money by not annexing that property. We pay the town and the school district, Beekman Town School District, I believe, $70,000 a year for owning that property. If we annex it as part of the city, then we no longer have to pay the,
70,000.
that's right. We save money, a lot of money. And then
That in the budget. Sounds like an officer.
hopefully what that will do is open that property up for development. With a combination of that much vacant land and our low electric rates, then we could attract maybe some large industries to come to the area, provide jobs, and spur growth in our economy somewhat. So there's a real valid reason to do this annexation.
Yeah.
The analysis and the studies we've seen shows that we can take property that's worth somewhere around $1 million now, and by bringing inexpensive electricity to it, all of a sudden property worth around $20 million. And not only that, it generates all of a sudden jobs. That property has been languishing for many, many decades. It's not very valuable as it is, but it could be incredibly valuable in the future, not only to us, but to the town of Plattsburgh, to Clinton County, and to all the people who work there.
Understand, I'm all for the annexation. I just had a constituent ask the questions, and I told her that I would ask the question tonight.
Well, hopefully we've given you some ammunition to take back to
Sure,
her.
she's watching.
Well, that's, That's good. And answer her concerns.
So my questions were along the same lines, Steve, because I received an email from a constituent, and I think there's some things we need to maybe clear up right now so they can be part of our public discussion about, what is the financial benefit to annexing the property. I mean, we of course know that annexing it opens up development opportunities, but in the immediate moment, this is what I think about. In the immediate time, for me, it comes down to, well, what are we paying in taxes for property that we already own? I mean, that to me is a really large component to this. We already own the property. And how much do we pay a year in taxes? You said about 70,000, Mike? Is that what it is?
That's combined town tax and school board tax
And county, yeah.
and county tax.
And what would we be saving then by annexing it? I mean, that financially, and I also want to, briefly, I was looking at point number 9 about where it says here in the document, loss of tax revenue to the town of Plattsburgh of approximately $11,000 will reduce the overall size of the town by only approximately 1%. The same tax revenue that will be lost from the town's perspective will be a direct savings to the city, while the mass of the city will be increased by 7%. So maybe a little more clarification on what does that mean for us financially, and what do we stand to gain financially by annexing the property? I don't know, Dean, if you can clarify that.
Sure. So as far as what we would expect to gain, so first off, it would be avoiding an annual expense in the range of $70,000 for the simple tax out the door. Optimistically, what could be gained was spelled out in an analysis from Tim Sierpinski, the city's assessor, who's also worked with the county. And he did an analysis based on the conceptual master plan, and that showed a build out. It was frankly a conservative analysis, which included vacant parcels, not necessarily full build out, but just with that subdivision into a residential component closer to Ruger Street, an industrial component towards the middle of the property, and then some recreational components towards the river. Based on Tim Sierpinski's conservative analysis, that was total taxable land value of $18 million. So the city's benefit, running that through with a city tax rate of about $11.65, the city would annually receive around $209,000 per year. That's just the city's end. County would receive about $100,000, and the city school district, assuming the boundaries were amended, which would be a natural process, a natural result of this process, would be about $326,000. Again, that was a conservative analysis, and that's certainly based on a conceptual master plan. So you can't put that money in the bank, but you could put the $70,000 per year in the budget.
Okay, so just to clarify, I mean, we know we would save the $70,000 that we're already paying now in taxes that we own on property that we own. And then just to clarify, you're saying that there would be an additional benefit to the city of approximately $200,000 or more per year. Is that correct? Did I capture that correctly?
That's based on the build out. Now, of course, there's expenses because there have to be some extensions of MLD power lines, of short extension of the water line to connect to the city boundary. So there's also some infrastructure costs that would go into it as well that aren't part of this calculation I just referenced. But yes, the numbers you referenced are accurate.
Okay.
But the real advantage to expanding the city like this isn't in additional, foregone property taxes or additional property taxes. When we talk about Nova Bus and how wonderful a thing that is, nobody says Nova Bus is a wonderful thing because they pay property taxes. People say Nova Bus is a wonderful thing because they generate all these jobs. And then those people live in places that generate property taxes, and they buy stuff at the supermarket that generate sales taxes, et cetera. It's all about jobs creation. It's not about some sort of scheme to shift tax obligations from one jurisdiction to another. That's what's constantly lost in this. is we're focusing on property taxes when we should be focusing on job creation, and all the benefits from that are far, far 10 or 100 times larger than the numbers you're talking about. It seems they get lost in the conversation for some reason that never is really brought up.
Well, that reminds me of a story I've heard over and over again that I believe it's a Sunset company out of Canada was looking around for a place to locate. If you ever go to the grocery store, you see Sunset tomatoes and Sunset cucumbers. They're a produce company. They mostly grow produce in greenhouses up in Canada and down in Mexico. Well, they came to Plattsburgh looking for a new place to build greenhouses, and they looked very closely at the property in question. And had we had our cheap electricity that we have today in that location, they would have located here, I'm fairly certain. But instead, I believe they moved to Hornell, New York, which is another Western New York community that has low price power too. So we just missed a great opportunity there to, have a company come in that's reputable and that also provides good jobs to people. So hopefully those kinds of opportunities will come knocking again if this annexation goes through and if we can provide the cheap power to that new part of the city. So I'm pretty excited about the possibilities.
I bring it back to the fact that it's property we own. We're paying taxes on it. And I know that the idea of annexation, and tell me if I'm wrong, Dean and Mayor, but I was under the impression, ideas of annexation have occurred with previous administrations, but never pursued, largely because we didn't own that property. Years ago, we didn't own that property on the base, and then we did. To me, this is what it keeps coming down to. I mean, I know we talk about hoping that we can turn this piece of property into something else, which of course is true. But in the immediate, I just think it makes financial sense to purchase the property that we're paying taxes on. I keep coming back to that. We're paying taxes on a piece of property that we own. We would save ourselves that money in the immediate. And then, of course, there would be that opportunity down the road, which does not exist right now. So that's just my perspective on this.
Well, you're making a good point there. You're talking about immediate benefits versus long-term benefits, and it seems like this annexation has both. So you're absolutely right about that.
And as it's built out too, it's absolutely a win-win-win. There's nobody that loses, including the town of Plattsburgh, because ultimately a lot of the people are going to be working as this is developed, are going to be living ultimately in the town of Plattsburgh and shopping at the malls in the town of Plattsburgh, et cetera. And the sums that the town will collect in sales tax and property taxes for new homes built, et cetera, are going to be far, far larger than the $11,000 we're talking about here. So we need to be willing as a community to think a little bit bigger and put aside, decades-long resentments and just actually figure out how to do things together. We tried at every step to try to make this as collaborative as possible. But sometimes we just cut off our nose and spite our face in our communities.
More discussion?
If not, I move them all to the agenda for consideration of the Common Council plan. Items 1 through 5.
I'll get the second one.
Roll call.
Steve, here. Yes.
And I approve.
Now we move on to old business.
Yeah.
Is there any? New business? See none? Meeting adjourned, all in favor?
Do a roll call for that too.
We do a roll call, okay. Mayor Reed,
Yes.
Steve Brody, yes.
We can then begin a work session tonight. Is there anything on the agenda that people like to bring out for additional conversation? I
I
think
have
we went
one.
over a number of things, but we can.
Did anybody see the report on the main mill dam? The engineer and building inspector went down there, Mr. Rupp. And
No.
that the main mill dam was recorded as unsound with deficiencies in such nature that the safety of the dam cannot be assured.
I think the last we left it is you're interested in revisiting our resolution. Do you two want to work for next week for the resolution on this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little paranoid of these things because things that should never happen. Like, I'm probably the only counselor here, probably the only citizen besides my wife and my immediate family, that ever had the cable TV tower come down in the middle of their front yard. 10 feet away from the bedroom. It really needs to be addressed. Even if it's some agency or owners of the dam starting to do preventive maintenance, it looks like it's nothing is being done. And it's just going to get worse.
Steve?
Yes.
I don't know what's happening, but the audio coming out of the council chambers right now, I can't hear a thing. It's like muffles and I hear scratches. So I don't know who's in charge of the audio, but I just wanted to let you know.
Ethan knows about it, but I don't know if we can do anything because it's something to do with the microphones. If you guys can speak louder. Are they talking?
Thanks, Beth.
Yeah. Can you guys talk for a minute just to test it?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay, Elizabeth?
Yes, but I think Beth is right. I don't know if you can pull your microphones closer to where you're talking. And I know that if you have any papers near the microphone, then all you can hear is like scratching and muffling. And Dean, you're super muffled because you don't sit in front of microphones. So I just thought I'd let you know that.
Okay, here's a test. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it was just, Steve, I don't know what's going on with your microphone. You just really cut out. I don't know what happened.
All right. Well, what I was saying was that my concerns and expressing the reason why I'm concerned about the dam is the fact that it was declared unsafe. Let me see, I'll read this again. The dam was rated as unsound, deficiencies in such nature that the safety of all of the dam cannot be assured. And that force the owners of the dam to do maintenance and repairs or cleaning it up. We're heading towards the worst time of the year for it. And it should be addressed, and somebody should be doing something because these things do happen where disasters happen. And I was telling the council that I'm probably the only person here that ever had a cable TV tower come down 10 feet and from their bedroom. And that the dam should be addressed, and that whoever the owners are of the dam, they should at least be doing some preventive maintenance and cleaning up the debris and opening up the slushways.
We'll work on seeing what we can do. I think all we've been able to do in the past, I believe, is resolutions because we don't have apparently jurisdiction. There's a DEC project and they say it's up to state.
We've lost your audio again, Mayor.
Yeah, the audio's gone again.
Jack?
Can you hear me, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. You were fine and then you cut out again.
I can hear Beth really well.
I'm over here in my office.
All right,
Pull that closer to you.
all right. It doesn't,
It doesn't move.
Oh, they're,
I don't want to damage it.
right.
Yeah, we can hear you great, Elizabeth.
I have no idea if this will work, but what if you use your smartphone and click to the Zoom on your phone, and that might pick up your audio? You want to try that?
You
I'll
may
just
run
talk
the risk of
louder.
getting Feedback.
Yeah, I think that happened to us before.
Oh, you
Yeah.
try that? Okay.
Whatever you just did cleared up the problem because you're all clear again.
Oh,
Don't know.
okay.
All right. But anyways, it seems like we should be able at least, we know who the owners are. And it seems like they should be a fine, a penalty, or something that we can do to encourage them to take care of their property.
Yeah, we've been working on it. We'll keep working on it. It's frustrating. It's been frustrating us for 4 years now, or me for 4 years now.
That's very sad.
Yeah, it's
And-
because the DEC it's a state jurisdiction because it's a dam.
But I thought they only owned a quarter, they owned a quarter of it, it
But
said.
that's
in
the
the report.
ownership of the dam. The state has jurisdiction, the Dam Safety Division has jurisdiction over dams in New York State, as well as the federal government for certain, certain dams that generate hydropower. So that the state has a preemption or supersedes anything that the city could do with respect to local code violation.
So there's nothing that the city can do.
As, nothing as an enforcement tool, there's certain political steps the city could take, but as far as fining the owner for a dam safety violation, that's within the DEC's jurisdiction. Or the feds, if it's a PERC licensed dam.
And the DEC owns part of the vet dam.
They own the urban embankment, and then Maine Mill Investments owns the masonry portion of the dam.
Could
And-
Not
we,
really.
could we send a letter to the DEC to express our unhappiness with their management of this dam?
We can, but we've had a number of meetings with DEC. And I don't know if any of you have been in some of those meetings. Certainly Dean has. They very clearly understand our position. There's no doubt about that.
What was
Well,
the
I don't
rating
think
of
it
the
hurts
dam
to
4
tell
years
them
ago?
again.
What was the rating of the dam 4 years ago?
Probably deficient then too. It's been, DEC's recognized they've had to do something about this dam for many, many years. They were planning to tear it out. They had a whole series of public hearings for about a decade to tear it out. They had a complete plan to remove the dam. They'd asked for certain concessions from the city to move the silt from the area behind the dam to city property. We offered those concessions. And then they changed their mind and said, nope, they're going to rebuild the dam, throw a bunch of money at the owners of the dam to have them rebuild it with taxpayer money, convert it to a hydroelectric dam as if they could compete with 1.9 cents per kilowatt hour hydroelectricity in the city and essentially take care of the problem that way. But for many people, it didn't take care of the problem because a lot of people would like that dam removed for safety reasons, for aesthetic reasons, to return the Saranac River back to its natural state. And so there's a whole pile of reasons that the DEC agreed with completely up until this most recent scheme. So it's got quite a history and the city's been involved in it at every step. And we've had a resolution from the city, the town of Plattsburgh, the town of Saranac, if I recall,
Scholar Falls.
or Schuyler Falls, all saying the same thing. Let's return that river to its natural state so we can get the salmon runs, et cetera, that we once had. The response from the DEC then was, okay, we'll rejig our plan to make for a fish ladder. But experts agree the fish ladder is not going to be any substitute with just removing the dam down.
Interesting.
Very frustrating, yeah.
You may recall in 2017 that there was an ice jam behind the dam that finally broke free, came down the river and infiltrated the Underwood Avenue mobile home park,
Yeah.
which is in my ward. And those people who live there are still trying to recover from that catastrophe. And they haven't quite gotten back to normal. And many people feel that they want. And there's nothing to say that the next ice jam couldn't be worse. It could possibly do more damage and even threaten lives. So, and I think the state spent $7 million fixing up the mobile home park after that disaster.
And certainly the city put in hundreds of thousands of work and effort to fix it up as well.
Sure did.
I would like to clarify that as the county legislator, where DC Trout Limited, the hydroelectric folks that were interested in repowering that dam, they came and spoke to the Economic Development County Operations Committee, which is my committee. And they presented a very brief, very thorough, probably there for about 2.5 hours, talking about the concerns of the dam, the hazard rating of the dam, the 30% engineering plan that was presented to restructure the dam and resolve it later. The sentiment was that it would take about $20 to $30 million to remove the dam, which would include mitigating natural waterways, watersheds, and it would have been excessive in the sense of trying to move the dam rather than the dam, which for $6 million already budgeted and set aside to fix the dam. As it is. I don't know where that project is sitting at currently. That was just last year that we had that conversation. And as far as the ice jam, my understanding from that meeting was that the ice jam wasn't necessarily from ice building up behind the dam or over the dam, but rather there's natural beds in the river where ice will automatically jam up, and upon release they will cause flooding, and Leavenworth is in natural floodplain. So
I believe Trout Unlimited's take on that is that that's the only place where ice can form on the river, because the water moves so fast from the next dam upstream that there's no place in that stretch that ice can form. So it almost certainly had to come from the Imperial Dam.
okay, ice forms right here, right down.
No, actually that ice comes from upstream.
No, I have pictures of the ice flows that come down. They're 5-6 feet thick. That can't form in the water, as swift as it is down here. And I have a lot of experience for that from Champlain. We get a lot of flooding, and that's exactly what happens in the spring. It raises all the ice chunks up. They come over the dams. They come down here and they cause an ice jam. It's because the water is much more shallow here, and that's a big problem for us. And that's millions of dollars in damage that's caused to us by these ice jams formed by these dams creating this thick ice. It can't happen downstream. It's always upstream. We'll continue to suffer while whoever gets their way there. It makes no sense to have dams on a swift river like that. None at all. When those big ice flows get downstream here, they just jam everything up. There's nothing you can do about it. I know I've seen over the years in Champlain, they've tried dynamite, get heavy equipment down in there. You're just going to live with it as long as you have dams.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to go back and provide all the documentation on both sides of the presentation that was presented to that committee.
Thanks, Chris.
My only concern is the last line in the statement, the safety of the dam cannot be assured. And this report was done by DEC. It just seems like it's waiting for a disaster to happen.
Pretty much.
Yep. Any other business that you'd like to raise? If not, we could ask for your various reports, beginning with governance strategy and city operations. Councilor Brody.
We had our meeting and we moved things to tonight's agenda.
City infrastructure, Councilor Moore.
Well, I just had one announcement to make. We just lost a longtime employee to retirement. Mr. Mike Brody, we're going to miss him greatly. He has been here probably longer than most people can remember. I guess from what I hear is 42 years and change that he has worked here, and I just want to say I appreciated working with him, and I think he did a great job. And wish him a happy and long retirement.
Me too, and I was going to make a comment along those lines in my mayor's comments, but I'll make it now. Certainly, I enjoyed working with him, but I don't think he's entirely lost to the city. He's very dedicated. This has been his life for so long. I think you maybe even know him too, don't you, Mr. Brody?
Just a little.
And he's offered that if anything we can ever need from him, and he could come and help, he'd certainly be willing. He's got a lot of institutional memory. Him and Mike Bissett have worked together closely for 6 years now, almost 6 years now, and his heart is still with the city, and I'm sure he'll continue to help us out in any way he can. But he's been just wonderful to work with. Him and the whole group at DPW just managed to do so many really creative things these last few years, like the road paving projects, etc. And I said to Mike just a couple of days ago, these are the guys that keep everything going, so we don't have to worry about them. But much of their work is not even really seen. It's not high profile, but they do it day in and day out with a very high level of professionalism and expertise. And Mike Brody really helped build that culture over a lot of years. It will be sorely missed. Finance and Budget, Councillor Kelly.
Well, the council continues to discuss the budget. We've had another meeting as of Monday. We remain at impasse. I would like to see us get together again very soon. The Finance Committee met yesterday, and we think we've come up with yet another compromise budget that will allow us to keep our staff in place. I know that's a big concern for some of our counselors, is no layoffs. And I say, well, maybe there's another way. Maybe if we truly do have attrition and do not replace those employees who have departed, then we can have a lower tax rate, and we can also honor that desire to not lay anyone off. So I'd like to get together with the council just as soon as possible to discuss this new possibility with you. Perhaps we could have a meeting on Monday, again, another budget hearing. And I know you're getting tired of budget hearings, but we really need to get this thing wrapped up. So I'd like to get together with you and discuss this new proposal just as soon as possible. Would Monday work for the other counselors? We could do it sooner if you prefer, but Monday seems to work.
I can do Monday.
Monday, okay.
Yeah, I guess I could too, Mike.
Okay. Pat, would you be able to make it Monday? Okay, got a thumbs up. Steve, would you be able to make it Monday?
What time?
Let's try for 3 o'clock again, if that works for you.
I'd have to leave by 5. I have an auction starting Monday, or maybe.
Yeah,
Christmas
hopefully we'll
auction.
be done much sooner than, we won't have another 2-hour session, hopefully. So there is one other thing I'd like to share. So we'll do this meeting on Monday, and Beth, could you please make that announcement to the public that we have an open meeting on Monday?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And we met with Mr. Marks yesterday and discussed the possibility of adding a deputy chamberlain to the finance department to work alongside Mr. Marks. And he was actually pretty excited about it. There's some special projects that need to be done, and that could be directed to the deputy chamberlain. So we talked about it, and I believe that's something we're going to try to fit into the budget. We found the money for it, so it won't be a real burden to the budget, but something that we believe is desperately needed in that department. So you'll be hearing more about that also. We also talked about allocations yesterday. You know, as you know, the mayor's budget proposed to change some of the allocations of employee time to the various enterprise departments. And I believe we've come up with a pretty good solution for that. We had a good discussion about it with Mr. Marks, and I believe he's on board now with the mayor's proposal for allocations. And that will return some money to the general fund and make it easier for us to balance the budget in the general fund and achieve our financial goals next year.
Just one point of order there. I haven't seen any of this new set of numbers you're talking about. I know I only saw one or two corners of the numbers that you were proposing. I think the one I focused on was the $9,955,000 of property taxes, but I haven't seen or agreed to any of the allocation methods
Okay.
you're talking
Well,
about.
we showed you a list of employees and how they're broken out one by one to the various enterprise funds. But we can sit down and do that again. No problem with that. When would you like to do that?
Well, I think that the entire list of employee salaries and how they were going to be budgeted by department has been revised. And I saw like one section of that at the top and one section at the bottom. And the numbers were changing as the mayor was typing at his desk. So, you know, I think everybody should see this entire, list of new proposals to see, you know, how the charges are going to be put from fund to fund, because I really haven't seen it all.
Yes, well, we want to make sure, the finance committee wants to make sure that you understand it first and foremost before we go any further with it. So we'll get back together perhaps a little bit earlier on Monday before we go into this 3 o'clock meeting and talk about that. Would that be okay, Mr. Mark?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
before we have that meeting on, or for the meeting on Monday, can we have printouts like we did this past Monday? Because I work better with paper.
Yeah, we can arrange that. No problem. Be happy to do that.
Yeah, I'd like a copy of all of it too, because I haven't seen, like I said, all the details top to bottom.
I'm confused a little bit. Are we giving Mr. Mark's department the clerk that he needs? Because he's asked for a clerk. He hasn't asked for what is it?
Deputy Chamberlain.
Deputy chairman.
Yes, the charter. The charter says we have to have a deputy chamberlain. So to honor the city charter, we believe that, and we believe that we should honor the city charter, that this position is necessary.
Would you be able to defer your conversation till we have to begin the council meeting now?
Okay.
Let's please begin the council meeting tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Councilor Kelly,
Here.
Councilor Gibbs,
Here.
Councilor Brody,
Here.
Councilor McFarland, Councilor Moore.
Here.
I was going to comment on working with Mr. Brody for the last 4 years, but you very eloquently did that for me, so thank you. One other piece of business here. Upon the resignation of Judge Mark Rogers, effective December 16th, 2020, the mayor hands down the appointment of Timothy Blatchley to the office of full-time city court judge effective December 17th, 2020 through December 17th, 2030. Said term to be in accordance with the provisions of Article 21 of the Unified City Court Act. Roll call, please.
Councilor Kelly,
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs,
Yes.
Councilor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
And then upon the December 17, 2020 vacancy of the office of part-time city court judge, the mayor hands down the appointment of Matthew Favreau to the office of part-time city court judge effective December 18, 2020 through December 18, 2026, said term to be in accordance with the provisions of Article 21 of the Unified City Court Act. And welcome, Mr. Favreau and your family for coming tonight. Appreciate it. And you're welcome to say any words if you'd like.
Well, I'd like to thank the council for signing, mayor for the appointment. My wife's there, my two girls, I would say wanted to be here, but they're hip hop, so they're probably better off there tonight. I appreciate this. I'm honored by just the appointment itself. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And roll call.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
And I actually didn't know, I think I may have known that your son was named Colin. I want to make sure it's very clearly understood that there's no partiality by trying to appoint an assistant judge with the same name as, with some of the same name as me. As a matter of fact, I need to apologize a little bit to you all because you know that we went through an appointment just a little while ago. These appointments were recommended based on an illustrious bipartisan group of judges and attorneys that collected a few years ago when we first heard that there might be some vacancies. At that time it was Judge Niles, but they looked at a number of candidates, including Mr. Favreau and including Mr. Blatchley, and they ranked the candidates and gave me that ranking. And what I've been doing since then is just moving through those rankings, trusting that the experts and the judges, et cetera, would make very good recommendations. You've all worked with me long enough that I don't do things for political patronage reasons. I do things simply based on merit and expertise without regard to party or politics. But I made a mistake in appointing Timothy Blatchley originally to begin his term on January 3rd, I believe, which would be in the next mayor's term. So it was pointed out by some of the next mayor's representatives that would be illegal. They did offer me a consolation that they'd not call me on that error if I let them name the assistant court judge. But instead, we decided to do it this way, make everything nice and proper. Judge Rogers was willing to oblige and assist us in this. We've moved up these various states to be within my term to grant these. So I apologize for bringing these to you a second time, but I had to correct that error, and I apologize for that. But everything's worked out in the end. It's just about the same. It just means that everybody has to begin their new jobs just a week or two earlier. So
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
that's all I have. Thank you.
resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on November 24th, 2020 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councillor Brody and second by Councillor Moore. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending December 2nd, 2020 in the amount of $488,785.62 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councillor Kelly and second by Councillor Moore. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. We've offered some of the reports for the various committees. I think we're up to and concluding with finance. Did you want to continue on with that discussion?
Well, the last thing I wanted to say is that I saw a headline today in the Press Republican that Zerlo proposes an $8.4 million budget cut. That's in the county, and our mayor-elect, Mr. Rosenquist, may want to comment on this. I think it's a bold action on the county's part to take this measure. This represents about a 6% decrease in their budget. And I say if the county can do it, the city can do it too. And I'll turn to page A4 here of the newspaper, and it says that there will be 49 fewer full-time employees. The recommended budget contains 49 fewer full-time employees than in 2020. All but one of those came through attrition. So that was probably good news. And most reductions were recommended by department heads. So the department heads actually brought these reductions to Mr. Zerlo, and I think they were very cooperative to help him in that process. It goes on to say that 36 of the positions were abolished, while 13 were not funded. So that's a total of 49. So I would say that if we can find a way to keep all the jobs of our employees in the city and offer the public a similar tax reduction, then let's do it. Let's do it. We're talking about people struggling with COVID-19 and not wanting to lose our city employees during a time like this. And I understand that. And I believe that's a noble thought on the people who feel that way. But there are also taxpayers out there who feel the same way. They're struggling, and they would like some relief too. So why don't we do both? Why don't we keep our city employees in place and just let attrition take place like it's doing in the county, and we too can have a significant tax decrease in the upcoming year. It will be much appreciated by people who are struggling to stay in their homes and pay the bills and keep the lights on and feed the family and all the other things that they have to do. So please, let's open our hearts and our minds and try to come to some sort of compromise come Monday that will achieve both our goals, keep all of our employees in place and provide the taxpayers a significant tax cut. I believe it's doable, and I'll be able to show you how on Monday.
Thank you. Public Safety, Councilor Gibbs.
I have no updates.
Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor McFarland.
Yes, the library is still managing to operate, although with with curbside pickups. I believe since the beginning of the year, they've had a little over 40,000 items borrowed. So they're still doing a pretty good business, even though they've been closed due to the pandemic. If I remember the agenda correctly, the library board has recommended an appointment by the council for someone for the library board of trustees. This person is an English professor, so I know they're looking forward to that if the council does approve that appointment. But other than that, I have no updates.
And MLD Board President, Councilor McFarland.
No updates this time at this time on MLD.
Resolved, the reports as listed are hereby ordered to receive, and any written reports are placed on file on public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Gibbs and second by Councilor Brody. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. No correspondences, recommendations from boards at this time. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills allotted by the Common Council for the week ending December 4th, 2020 in the amount of $201,835.50 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Moore. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Are there any individuals like to address the council on items on the agenda tonight? Ethan, anybody in Zoom that would like to address the council?
Yes, and I'm bringing them forward now.
Thank you.
And Trevor Cole will be the first public speaker.
Okay.
Hello, honorable members of the City Council. Thank you for taking a moment to listen to what I have to say. I'd like to speak to the agenda item regarding annexation of the lands in the town of Plattsburgh and those being in the best interest of the general public. I had a few comments. I did provide an email earlier today or this afternoon to the councilors as well as Mr. Schneller and the mayor. I hope you've had a chance to read that. If you haven't, I hope you do get a moment to read that. I've also provided a brief summary of that in the email that I did send. A few items I wanted to touch on, and I will try to be brief. I know you want to limit time. There's a couple items in the resolution that I wanted to speak to. One, number 6, the annexation will promote the build out of the territory to promote economic development for the surrounding community. I'm not sure that that has been demonstrated in any objective way. Upon annexation, the town of Plattsburgh will no longer have the obligation to provide emergency services to the territory, and the response times for these services will be shorter. That data has not been provided that the response times were shorter. I'm not sure that's an accurate statement. All the data provided to date has shown adequate response times from town volunteer services. Upon annexation, the property will have direct access to city water and sewer services. That's actually not correct. At the joint public hearing, Mr. Ruff, the city water and sewer services manager, stated that the utility would have to be extended 1,000 feet up Ruger Street to the subject lands. So I would just question whether the city has budgeted in 2021 for 1,000 feet of new water main installation and the associated impacts to Ruger Street, because you would have to tear up Ruger Street to install 1,000 feet of water main to the subject property. I'm not sure if that's been included in the city budget. Similarly, the property would not be available to receive city electricity immediately. Mr. Bill Treacy stated at the joint public hearing that approximately 3/4 of a mile of transmission line would have to be extended to the parcel. And I'm not sure if the city's also budgeted for 3/4 of a mile of new transmission line for the 40,000 kV line, nor the new transformer that Mr. Tracy stated would have to be installed on the site, which potentially could be in the millions of dollars for the installation of a transformer. A quick summary of my comments, if I still have time, I would say that overall, of course, the town objects to the annexation. However, for some very specific reasons with your resolution tonight, I wanted to point out, one, has the city budgeted for the required 1,000 feet of water main extension? Has the city budgeted for the 1,000 feet of Ruger Street road rehabilitation? Has the city budgeted for the extension of approximately 1/3 of mile of electrical transmission line and the associated new transformers? And has the city budgeted, does the city have any local regulation or laws to regulate or otherwise protect citizens from the potential noxious impacts associated with the operation of the sewage sludge compost facility? The facility is currently regulated by town local law, which appoints a citizens panel comprised of both town and city residents. And further, the town's local law allows codes enforcement officers to temporarily shut down the facility should it not operate correctly or emit foul odors. And finally, the city has asserted that future impacts to the town and city from this development would be well regulated and reviewed through the public site plan review process. However, the city has proposed an amendment to their local law that would exempt such review on city-owned properties. So I would ask, does the city now intend to revise its original seeker form to indicate that it would exempt itself from that review and that would not be part of the review? As was stated in the joint public hearing, that those projects would receive a site plan review. And further, does the city intend to exempt itself from its current review process at those subject lands, which was intended to be the protection for both the town and the city residents should annexation occur? I appreciate you giving me the time to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And up next, it's logged in as 031706, and I'm bringing them forward now.
Please proceed. We're ready. I think you remain muted. There you go.
Forgive me, I thought it would bring up my name. This is Joan Jansen speaking. I took a look over tonight's agenda and see that discussion about the annexation taking place. My understanding of an annexation is that you do not own the property which you are planning to annex. I think the town would probably agree that the city does not actually own it. If they did own it, they wouldn't have to annex it. Annexation, the definition: to take or appropriate, especially without permission, and to incorporate territory into the domain of a city, county, or state. I agree wholeheartedly with the board that it is to the advantage that that property be included within the city. However, since it currently appears to belong to the town, they might have some other ideas, particularly when you talk about the fact that it will be worth $20 million. That money would be pouring into the town as instead of the city. So respectfully, I would ask that you do not engage in any contracts with Trudell, with Hudson Valley Cultural Resources Consulting, with Stantec Consulting, and with KAS Environmental and Science and Engineering until perhaps a judge or someone has cleared it and said that yes, Plattsburgh actually owns that property. Because if we spend money on those consulting jobs and they should find that Plattsburgh cannot own the property, that the annexation cannot go forward, we wasted taxpayers' money. And I don't want to see that happen. The other comment that I would like to make in terms of speaking about budget, shrinking the staff through attrition seems to be the way that you feel that we can make that happen. And I would like to say, well, what about the staff that's left? Because they end up doing 2, 3, working as if they were 2 people or 3 people. And this is a really good way to demoralize the people who are left. I don't think we do need a tax reduction. I don't think anybody is begging for it. I think the tax rate ought to remain just as it is now. And given that the council has been at odds with the town, I was aghast at the almost 15% decrease, because frankly, I would have thought that that could work to put the city of Plattsburgh into bankruptcy, which would mean that the town would be taking over Plattsburgh instead of the city. So I think a 15% is ridiculous. I think the 5% doesn't need to happen. I would ask that you hold fast and do a status quo budget and no increases, no decreases. But in terms of the annexation, yes, it's fine to move forward, but I don't believe currently you have the right to that property, and therefore don't spend any money on consultants with the assumption that you do. Thank you.
Any other members of the public, please address the council on items on the agenda tonight.
There is no others with their hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves that the mayor is authorized to sign an agreement with MLFLW LLC and Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau to host the 2021 Toyota Series Northern No. 1 Fishing Tournament on July 15th through 17th, 2021.
Moved by Councilor Brody, second by Councilor Moore. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
No.
no? Did you say? I'm sorry.
Yes, no, I said no.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves that the mayor is authorized to sign an agreement with MLFLW LLC and Adirondack Coast Visitors Bureau to host the 2021 BFL Northeast Number 3 Fishing Tournament on July 24th, 2021.
Moved by Counselor Brody, second by Counselor Gibbs. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
No.
Counselor Moore, I need to ask you what your vote is. I forgot on number A.
It was yes on the first one and
Okay,
yes on the second one also.
sorry about that. Counselor McFarland threw me off.
Thank you. I'd like to hand down the appointment of Elaine Osprey to the library board beginning on December 4th, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2025. And I'm going to make a very strong contribution to the library board. Roll call?
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes,
affirming and adopting amended negative
Beth,
declaration.
unless Dean thinks there's some compelling interest to doing so, I would waive a reading on this item.
Yeah, I have no issue with waiving a reading. I would note that these documents, supporting material that is circulated to the council and presumably read by the council.
I have no idea what he just said, but if he said we should read it, then I'll withdraw my waiver of the reading.
Yeah, our legal counsel confirms that these have all been distributed in advance and read thoroughly by the council members. Do we have a second to waive the reading? Move to Councilor Brody, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Discussion on the item itself, item D.
Just for curiosity, one of the constituents that were calling or on the Zoom asked, do we have budgeted funds for these future projects and development of that property?
They would represent capital investments. Should this go forward? They're not budgeted currently because this process hasn't been completed yet.
Is there water and sewer there now?
Limited.
No, there's not. It's unimproved. And nor is this a project that's set in stone and ready to break ground next year.
If this goes through, will it be handled through our LLC?
Ideally, because community economic development factors, they're going to create much better value and be able to complete it much more quickly than if we end up being the
That's
applicant to
what I
develop
was
it.
Like the first LLC project.
Well, I would hope that the Miller Street house or Miller Street property owned by MLD, the Chaplin's house, could be the first LDC properties. Those will be very quickly dispensed with. And of course, Harborside is ripe for development as well. So I think Harborside would probably be the first really big opportunity for the LDC to develop. But this one here is huge, 220 some odd acres, 7% of the land mass of the city. And obviously could keep the LDC busy for a number of years.
Well, I'd like to say that I'm for the LLC. I'm for the development. I'm for the annexation. And I think it's important that, again, the city's always looking to cut jobs, to raise the budget. The other way is to create things and create property taxes and businesses that will generate. Far better than threatening every other budget about laying people off. We need to grow, and with growth comes extra income.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah,
is well, there's that.
You're
And
right.
I think that's one of the best things about annexation. I think the city has a lot of property that it's sitting on that's not producing any income. And just sitting there going to waste. It should be sold, it should be subdivided, and it should be into tax-paying property.
You know, we've been working on this for a number of years now to get this and other properties to the point. But you're right, it's all about expanding the tax base. If we can expand the set of properties that will generate revenue, that has the added effect of adding revenue, but also potentially lowering the tax rate for everybody else as the burden is shared across more properties. So you're absolutely right. This is absolutely essential for the future of a city that's only got 5.1 square miles, did not get a large chunk of the new base or the base when it left town and was divided up. For some reason, we didn't want to pursue that at that time. And of course, that doesn't look very smart now. But we're a landlocked city surrounded by a much larger town, 6 times our size, with all kinds of room to expand. Unless we can figure out ways to expand, we really can't generate much more revenue. So it's absolutely, I believe, absolutely key to our survival to be doing things like this.
Speaking of other ways to generate revenue, Patrick received the reports back from the senator.
Good. I don't know. Let's get to that in new business, presumably. Okay. Any further discussion on this item?
Well, I have a question, but I don't know if this is where I should ask it, and it connects to Joan Jansen's question about the annexation. Dean, would you be able to answer that question? Because you know how this works. We don't go back and forth, you know, between council and comment, but Joan is a constituent in my ward. Is that something you would be able to clarify? The question that she brought up about the language?
Yes. Yes. Just first for a point of order, this is only a resolution on the seeker. The next resolution is on the substantive findings, whether annexation is appropriate. But to your question, Councilor Gibbs, Ms. Jansen's comment was inaccurate. The city is the title owner for the entire 224-acre parcel.
Okay. I thought so, but I thought it would be important to address it. And like I said, I wasn't sure if that should have been done now or later, but I think that's a really important point for public record to be very clear that we do in fact own the property.
That's right. Own all of the property. Yeah. We're not taking anybody else's property. Correct. Any further questions? Roll call.
Councillor Kelly?
Yes.
Councillor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councillor Brody?
Yes.
Councillor McFarland?
Yes.
Councillor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution finding annexation to be in the overall public interest. Whereas by annexation petition dated August 3rd, 2020, the city of Plattsburgh requested that the territory described
Sorry, Beth, I'll interrupt you there. Same as the last one. Unless Dean thinks there's some overriding interest, I'll move to waive, or I'd like to waive the reading on this item and move it to resolution.
I'd second that.
McFarland, second by Councilor Gibbs. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion of the item that's been previously circulated to the council.
One of the questions that was asked, do we plan on opening up the compost plant there again?
Presumably not. I think this idea came up as a way to try to do something different with that property we both owned for a number of years. Our whole goal in the city is to generate as many jobs as possible in that area and create as many homes potentially as possible to serve the city, expand the tax base, to use that in a means that we've been able to use that in the past and have discarded probably would not make sense. But I wouldn't want to at all prejudge what plans may come forward on that property. That's going to be something domain of an LDC that will bring ideas forward to the council, and the council and the planning and zoning boards would then approve those applications on individual parcels within that 220 acres. That's how the process would work.
And I think that the belief that is going to be reactivated started last year when, so Mayor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because there was a permit or something that had expired, and we just reapplied for it, not because we wanted to rebuild it, but because to not file for the permit again meant we would be waiting many years. Is that correct? We would be waiting like many, many years if that was something we wanted down the road or something to that effect. Isn't that correct?
It was a routine renewal of a project that we haven't pursued for many years. However, Mr. Ruff did report to us that there's many new processes that have become available in the last decade that we may want to explore for processing of our sludge. So it may be good to have that application ready if we ever do want that option to process the sludge that we currently truck to other locations. But there's no plans to reactivate it this time at all. And on that site, I'd find it almost incomprehensible that that would be the best use for that site at this point. So I think you're absolutely right. There's a routine renewal.
And there was a fire in that facility, right? Isn't that essentially what shut it down? And so, I mean, I've done a tour of that property when I first came on the council, and my recollection is that it's in, I don't even know if it's in operational shape, right?
No, it isn't. We did have an insurance settlement on it, I think to the tune of somewhere around $3 million, which is still a fund that we maintain. But we haven't used those proceeds to rebuild the compost because we had no intentions of getting back into compost reprocessing again.
The balance in that fund is $2,373,000.
Any other questions or any other further discussion? Roll call.
Roll call?
Counselor Kelly? Sorry.
Yeah.
Counselor Gibbs?
Yes.
Counselor Brody?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Counselor Moore?
Yes.
No travel requests at this time. Are there any resolutions for initial consideration? Any new business or continued discussion of council reports? Councilor Kelly?
Yes, we had Ms. Jansen speak to us again tonight about how she doesn't mind being taxed. And we also had a former Councilor Armstrong come speak to us a couple of weeks ago, and she pretty much said the same thing. She doesn't mind being taxed. And I just like to offer an alternative notion on that. Oh, thank you. Just a second, folks. Okay, sorry about that. I actually wrote an email to former Councilor Armstrong after her visit with us, and I'd like to read that to you, if you don't mind, if you'll indulge me. I said, "Hi, Rochelle. Thanks for coming by the council meeting tonight. It's always nice to see you. Here's something I want you to consider. Taxation is an issue of class struggle. Let me explain. There are two Plattsburghs. There's the one that you live in which you have a good job and good benefits, including a healthy retirement package. You say you don't mind if your taxes are increased. You can afford higher taxes. Then there is a second Plattsburgh. It's the one in which people work at low-wage jobs with poor or no benefits and definitely no retirement path. They try to put two meager incomes together and buy a modest home. They eke out enough to pay the mortgage and taxes, and they struggle to pay the food bill, the medicine bill, and buy clothes for the kids. If they're lucky, they might have a few bucks left to buy some entertainment once in a while. Things are going okay until they get a notice from the mortgage company that their escrow account is too low. They have to cough up $500 to cover higher taxes. They may not have $500. They can have the $500 divided into 12 monthly payments or $42 per month. This means that they buy $42 less per month in food, medicine, or clothing. If taxes increase every year, they give up another $42 each month. If that happens over 5 years, the family's lost over $200 per month. Keep in mind that as 5 years passes, their real incomes are reducing due to inflation and even more to the specter of income inequality. Finally, the family decides Plattsburgh is no longer affordable and they move away to someplace cheaper to live. Are there really people like this in Plattsburgh? I know several just like this. It's like our old colleague Peter Insel once said, people who can't afford Plattsburgh vote with their moving vans. You never hear anyone come to the city council and exclaim out loud, I can't pay my taxes. Would you do that if you couldn't pay your bills? No. People who are in financial distress don't talk about it. This is America, where we're all supposed to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. People never talk about their financial troubles because it is embarrassing. They just drive away to greener pastures in a cheaper place. Here's the point. It is just a bourgeois attitude to be lackadaisical about taxes. To you, maybe it's not a big deal. To people who are struggling, it is a big deal. It is a matter of class. The bourgeoisie is okay with taxes, the working class is not. I hope you will keep that in mind as you think about taxation in the future.
I might add very briefly, there might be a third Plattsburgh too. It's the one the real estate agents talk about. You know, me as an economist, I'm thinking about job creation, filling up homes, building new homes, etc. Where those come from are people that we want to move here. And ask any real estate agent, with the look on people's face when they take out that listing page, they look down near the bottom at the level of taxes paid in the city of Plattsburgh, and they say, I can't on a $300,000 home afford to pay $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 of taxes. I mean, that's the problem. It's the people we never see who are never going to show up at a council meeting because they decided not to move to Plattsburgh in the first place. That also concerns me. We need to keep that in mind. We need to make sure our city is as affordable as Watertown and Glens Falls and Saratoga Springs, the entities we essentially compete with, and they're all vastly lower in taxes than we are. For maybe we can all give about 10 different reasons why they're lower in taxes than we are. But the fact is we don't get those households because we price ourselves out of the marketplace.
There's a double-edged sword to success in our city, and the first edge is lower taxes and the second is more development. And luckily those things go hand in hand. More development means lower taxes because you spread the tax burden over more and more properties. So until we can lower taxes and spur development, Plattsburgh will continue to decline. You can count on that. So I would urge the council, in this time, you have a great opportunity to guarantee the future of Plattsburgh by passing a budget that lowers taxes. And we talked about doing it systematically over 3 years so that it doesn't hurt so much and people are more comfortable with it. Councilors are more comfortable with it. And then we also need to fund that LDC and get it off the ground. We have some ways to increase development, and we have developers knocking on our door saying if they can work with an LDC, they can come to Plattsburgh. They feel comfortable investing in Plattsburgh. So I would really, really like for us to do that. I'd like for us to pass a budget that gives something back to the taxpayers, not only because they need the money, but because Plattsburgh needs the development. So let's do that, people. Let's do it. We don't have to be afraid. The county can do it. We can do it. Thank you.
Any other new business and council reports?
Well, I just had a FYI for the other counselors. I know you probably missed that, but on the e-edition this Monday of the Plattsburgh Press, they had the budgets of several towns in the county. It's very good reading to see how their budgets came out. I know you probably missed it just like I did until my wife pointed it out to me, but they were all on the e-edition this Monday. So they make for interesting reading.
I recall you mentioned
of the Press Republican.
Many jurisdictions are lowering taxes right now, as we see everywhere, lowering taxes, lowering expenses.
Yep.
For very many of the reasons why Councillor Kelly had elucidated. Any other new business and council reports? Any closing public comments?
Mayor, we received one, someone tried to get in the Zoom meeting and they weren't able to, so they emailed me. They would like it entered into the comments.
Okay, thank you.
From Rochelle Armstrong. First, I endorse.
Beth, there is a Rochelle with a hand raised in the Zoom meeting.
Oh, she's coming. Okay, good. She was able to get in. Thank you.
And then I'm bringing in the person signing as Rochelle now.
Okay, I'm assuming you can hear me. Here I am in full array. So yes, thank you, Beth, for being willing to read what I had commented before I thought I could enter the meeting. So first of all, I would like to register my support for Councillor Gibbs' public safety budget. I feel as though she has taken a measured position, a researched position, and it's the middle ground. And I think, you know, here you are, you're a council that is, you know, basically paving the way for a new council and a new mayor to do their work. And I encourage you to not undertake any changes to personnel and operations that have not fully been vetted or researched and that have perhaps might have unforeseen impacts on city services. So I endorse the recommendations that Elizabeth Gibbs has put forward. And I think I'll have to say my other comment for the latter part of the agenda. So thank you very much.
Rochelle, this is the latter part of the agenda, I think.
Oh, well, I missed it because I couldn't get in. Okay, so the other part of what I need to say is, okay, I have a vested interest in what happens to Ira Barbell's seat. You know, I feel that he did a wonderful job, and I regret that family matters have forced him into having to resign. But, you know, there are 2 years left to what his term, and I believe that my ward is best served if we were to hold a special election. I don't know whether or not Mayor-elect Rosenquist will be attending this meeting, but he has proposed that we have a special election, and I strongly urge the council to consider filling that seat through a special election, especially since there's 2 years remaining in that term. So that's what I have to say.
Any other members like to please address the council?
Currently, no other hands are raised.
Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Gibbs. Roll call.
Councillor Kelly,
Yes.
Councillor Gibbs,
Yes.
Councillor Brody.
Yes.
Councillor McFarland,
Yes.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Thank you, folks. Stay safe.